Great.
Yeah.
All right, it is queuing up, but I believe we are live.
Yep, it says so. All right, should we share the presentation and go through that?
I will do
Please
that.
do.
Yeah, we do have a topic du jour that would be good to discuss a little bit today.
Oh, fun. Okay, sharing my screen.
All right. Well, welcome everybody. Workaholics around the globe. Welcome. John Power here, Executive Steward of Opolis. We're going to have, I would think, a little bit shorter community update call today as compared to what we did a couple weeks ago. So we're just going to kind of jump into it. Before I pass the mic to Eddie to kind of go through our operations and financial side of things, I don't have any more updates this week on the capital raise component. I just got back from a short vacation, so I'm getting calibrated with a few things with the team. We've got some legal things to work out, and we should have some community presentations into the future on that particular subject. That's about all it on my end. So why don't we go to the next slide here, Joshua, if that's okay?
Mm-hmm.
So admin and finance, AKA ops.
Yep. Hey, everybody.
Eddie.
Yeah, thanks, John. So I'm happy to announce that we did hit another epoch. As you may know,
Cool.
we did vote, the Board of Stewards voted to change the target to make it 10%. So this one was a bit longer than we've seen in the past, and that's by design. But let's all celebrate. We hit 1.24 million in payroll volume last pay cycle. And that was inches from actually hitting the next epoch, which is 1.27 million. We were that close to hitting 2 epochs. So with our pipeline and the number of folks who have already staked for April 1st, very, very likely that we're going to hit one for sure, if not 2 epochs, the second pay cycle in April. So just as a refresher on how that works, folks join typically almost always on the first of the month, which means in April, there's only 1 business day in that first pay cycle. So you're not going to see, a huge spike in ACPV until the second pay cycle on the 15th. And that's when we're planning on announcing another victory. So in the meantime, we are cleaning up some referral data, which is always the trickiest part of the token distribution. And we will be starting to make distributions soon. Lastly, we have been actively looking at controller applicants and candidates. We've got a couple solid leads there and hoping to make some offers. So this is kind of the last chance if you know of anybody who's an absolute rock star before we close out these roles. And that's it on admin and finance.
Well, that was easy. Cool. Thank you for that. Next slide. Why don't we jump into product and tech? Bill?
Yep. So we released. Yeah, Ian's traveling today.
That's
so
right. You got it today.
Yep. So we released the crypto payroll product last cycle. We thank you.
Yay. Round of applause.
Yep. Thank you to everybody who used it. If you are still sending money to your Relay wallet, be warned, this is the last time we will accept that. In the future, we will send it back to you for you to pay through the crypto platform because it is more secure and it saves the tech and ops team a ton of time. We also got some cool bounty submissions from ETH Denver Virtual. this week and picked 2 winners. I'm not going to expose who those might be because I don't think it's been announced yet, but was very happy with the 2 bounties we picked as winners and excited to talk about them and how they might be integrated in future Board of Stewards calls. In process, we're targeting a Polygon launch for crypto payroll paying for the next pay cycle in April. So the 2nd through the 15th cycle. So that way you'll be able to pay in USDC on Polygon. We're also continuing to work on a new calculator, payroll services. We've got the calculator done. It's everything around the calculator that is being rebuilt now. We're also starting to work on open enrollment. And I know Eddie will be sending out a survey over the next couple of weeks to collect some member feedback on benefits for this next open enrollment cycle. And also, we'll talk more about this later in our topic du jour, but had a good exploration of switching up our staking contract and how we do staking. So we'll talk about that more. We've got 2 strong candidates in the pipeline. In terms of what we're hiring for, one's a more senior dev. One is a more mid-level dev, but we're still looking for those positions. If you've got any good devs, especially with Python and Web 2 experience and a strong interest in Web 3, please send them to us. Great question from Yonks on Superfluid being explored for Polygon. So we currently do use Superfluid for streaming tokens. We are talking to them about kind of like different ways to integrate Superfluid with payroll. That's actually one of the bounties. We did a joint bounty with them. So it is on the product roadmap and more to come and more discussions on how we might integrate further with Superfluid. So that's it for product. And
I do have a question, Bill.
Yeah.
Are you able to say which categories the bounties were for? Or do you want to keep that?
So we had a couple good bounty submissions for the Opalist Part 2, as I call it, which is a Discord bot for sharing opportunities and looking for opportunities. Cool. So we will implement that in our Discord as soon as we kind of clean it up. And then the second one was the Superfluid Opalist bounty. So a couple people submitted projects on how Superfluid could be used to improve payroll or payments for freelancers.
Awesome. I have a follow-up question for the Polygon payroll launch. So I know with Sendwire, it's MUSDC. Are we going to be taking other stable coins, or are we just doing MUSDC?
Just doing MUSDC for right now.
Cool. That's still very awesome.
Yeah.
I'm excited about that. We've had a lot of members asking about being able to pay on Polygon.
Yeah.
Double yay on layer 2 payroll. Yay.
Yay, cheap payroll.
Is there an estimate on how much that saves us in terms of not using mainnet for liquidating stuff?
I mean, the payroll contract system is saving us 10x over what it used to cost. And that's 10x mainnet savings. So I think layer 2 payroll will be easily a 100x savings for us.
That's awesome.
Yep. And it is
money.
Better for our members too, right? So
that's the main thing. It's more so. I think it's a money saver for the members. So that's
yeah.
Well, it's both.
What
too,
is
right?
that in,
the more money we spend,
in like absolute cost?
So the relay wallets were starting to cost us around 1.5 ETH to liquidate each cycle because so many members use it. With the new crypto payroll contract, we spent about 0.15 ETH to liquidate everything last cycle. In terms of the paying for payroll on the mainnet contract, it's about the same as just transferring an ERC20 token. I think it's like 5% more expensive. gas wise. Obviously, once that moves onto Matic, right, you're looking at a much lower gas cost because Matic tends to be a third the price in when it comes to Gwei in terms of what you need to pay Gwei wise. And then obviously the Matic token is quite a bit cheaper than ETH right now. So, yep. And to Young's question about other networks like ZK Sync, our rule or guideline is if there is a network with 5 or more members that get paid on that network and want us to expand there, please reach out to us. From a technical requirement, all we need is EVM compatible and supports the graph and Gnosis safe. So if the network meets all of those and we've got 5 members looking to pay payroll, we will go there.
That's amazing. The threshold's really only 5.
Yeah, because that's a decent amount of ACPV.
Cool. That's a pretty low barrier. So to the members in the audience who are listening, I know we had some people who were asking about Phantom. 5 consistent members wanting to pay on that network.
Yep. So long as, right, we've got the graph, Gnosis safes, and then obviously we still need to take stable coins for now. Gnosis chain is next up. So that's after Polygon, we plan on launching on Gnosis chain. So that's already kind of short term on the roadmap.
Cool. Any other questions for Bill or product and tech? Awesome. All right, I'll be filling in for community and the membership side of community and membership. We had 30 new members for March, leading to 11% PCV growth. I think that number was updated.
Yep, that was updated. I updated
okay, cool. The advancement that we've made is that in HubSpot, we've made some great updates thanks to Gavin and putting some tooling together. We are now able to integrate SMS texts into our, not the onboarding flow, but into our CRM activities. And so when people start to fill out their onboarding and then they get stuck or they stop or they forget, we're now actively doing SMS outreach. We're not using it for existing members. We'd still like that support flow to go through the Discord or support@opolis.co for now. But for people who have not joined yet, we're doing SMS outbound and inbound, which we've already seen some decent movement in contacting people on the various channels that they have. Our bankless campaign is live or was live. We don't have metrics finalized on that, but by the next meeting, not the next meeting, but so the campaign ends May 1st. So we'll have final metrics on how well that performed after the May 1st onboarding. That's when the 1,000 work, 1,000 bank promo expires. But we should see a tick up here for April. Next week we will have the exact numbers on how many joined for April 1. We're working on a partnership with Kite, who 90% of their workforce is contractors. So that could be a huge unlock for us. And then we're in the testing phase for the Ambassador platform that we are going to try to deploy to help gamify the front end of how referrals work. So a little bit more of a complicated system that we have maybe like 10, 15 people who actively send us referrals who are awesome. We'd love to grow that number. And I think one of the problems is the tokenomics are a little bit, it's like the back end is hard to see the instant gratification for that referral. And so we're going to play with some gamified things in an app to help people see their referrals, maybe reward them upfront for making a conversion rather than waiting for the tokenomics to kick in with some of our discretionary bounties. It's a exciting development that we deployed at Lyft, a combination between spiffs up front and then ongoing for the drivers actually completing their rides. We are still hiring for one more membership success steward to help us with onboarding new members. We recently hired Kitty Slasher to help us with community and social media and a little bit of membership, kind of a utility player in helping us improve our outbound comms at the guerrilla level. And I believe we have another membership steward, Mason, who I don't know his exact start date, maybe this week or next week. So we're excited to get them onboarded and helping us hit those main numbers. Any questions?
No, I don't think so. Thanks,
Cool.
Joshua.
And I reactivate. Oh no, I'm drawing on the screen. How do I get out of the Zoom thing? There we go. And then a brief update on the work token. We are steadily increasing the number of people who are holding the work token. That's in part due to the number of new members who are earning as part of the tokenomics. And I think that the graph on the left shows that the vast majority of members who are earning the work token are holding on to it. There are a few people who have newly acquired the token, but for the most part, I think they understand the long-term upside. We did have an uptick on the supply that is on exchanges from like 0.9 something to 0.16. The streaming decreased a little bit, which means that some people are starting to claim from the superfluid stream, which is really cool. And then staking drastically increased again. So the number of staked work, which according to Polygon Scan says is about 14% of the total supply, but the total supply number is not correct. So I didn't do the math on, on what it actually is. And I believe we'll be up to 420 million after this new epoch is minted.
That's right. We're adding 5 million.
Yep. Which is another thing for the topic du jour if we have time. All right, any questions about the work token? Moving right along.
Yeah, so one of our topics, I think we had talked about this pre-ETH Denver, was changing how we do the epoch staking contract and making it something a little bit more traditional, because for two reasons. One, so that our members can understand how the staking contract works a little bit better. And two, because part of the lack of transparency around staking rewards comes from the fact that we are having to manually pull a list of everybody who remains staked through the epoch, determine their percentage of tokens staked, and then distribute the staking tokens pro rata across those people via our Merkle claim distribution contract. So last time we talked about doing something that's closer to what DeFi staking does. So you essentially set an APR, people stake their tokens into it and then can claim tokens out at any point. The difference between us and the traditional kind of like farming staking contracts is that staking is a perpetual thing for us, and our token grows over time. So rather than a lot of projects, when they set up staking, they commit to 1 to 3 months of rewards, put the number of tokens into a staking contract that they want to distribute. And once those tokens are distributed out, they're done. With us, obviously, the staking contract would be perpetual. What we talked about last time was setting it up so that we kind of re-up the staking contract every time we hit an epoch, but otherwise target kind of like a steady flow of distributions that would draw the staking contract kind of rewards tokens down to 0 over a 3-month period, anticipating that it'll be a long time before we go 3 months without hitting a new epoch to refresh the rewards available in our staking contract. From a technical perspective, it seems relatively possible to adjust kind of the standard DeFi staking contracts to allow for it to be a more perpetual system. So it really now goes to a community conversation in terms of how long do we want kind of the staking contract to draw down over, anticipating that it'll be re-upped periodically, whether this system seems better than the other system just for transparency and for allowing members to interact with something that they might be more used to, etc. So I'll kind of like open it from there, saying seems technically possible with some tweaks. If the community wants to go forward, we can create a prototype and kind of demo what it would look like.
I really like the idea of the time period. And so let's say let's say there's 5 million that we start with. 5 million goes into the contract that disperses over 3 months by block. So anybody who's staked at that moment can then claim a pro rata amount of whatever's released that block over 3 months. And then since we hit epochs every month instead of 3 months, that contract will have more in it that gets compounded, that extends the life or compounds the amount that's in there, which incentivizes the community to grow faster, or when the rewards went out, to help us grow so that that contract gets renewed, or not contract gets renewed, so that the pool gets replenished, which I really like that idea.
Cool. Any other thoughts, Eric, Oren?
I mean, you could like create I don't know, I'm just thinking out loud here, but like, say you had like another token that you would get in real time during the period. And then it showed you your ownership in that of those tokens during the epoch. So I would know at any point that I have 1.5% of the epoch, and that number would change in real time based on the ownership during that epoch. And then you also know how much the total amount of tokens is at the end of the epoch. So you could kind of like use those variables to give like dynamic amounts, even though you're not actually getting those tokens, the work tokens,
Yeah, that would be another possibility, is have people stake their work, receive some sort of like proto work or staked work in order to better show their ownership of the pool. And then, if they want to burn that staked work, they can then withdraw their work and the rewards. That's also a pretty cool way of doing it.
The nice quality of that is that it allows the stake token to then become DeFi Legos, or just kind of, you can go and then plug it into other systems.
Yeah, I think we're being recorded, but actually I think SpankChain early on has a really good smart contract model for this. So I can look at that since they had a cool model for people staking, getting a stake token, and that stake token kind of became more powerful the longer you were in the contract as well. So you got rewarded for hodling for a while, which was kind of neat. That way you couldn't kind of like come in at any one point and take all your percent. You had to kind of like, you could earn more essentially by being a longer staker, which I thought was pretty neat, and looked at previously for when Metacartel did Chili staking.
I mean, that's the like VCO model, right? Where you get a bonus to your vote weight by locking for longer.
Yeah. And so I also like that mechanics because it does it does help people just their smart contracts, Josh.
It's for work, I swear.
Yeah. They're really brilliant engineers. It was
I only read for the smart contracts.
yeah. This was a James Young and a Mean collab, so great smart contract developers, and found out about it through James.
All right, so
Yeah,
I guess we move into public comments or questions then. Anything else that people want to wrap up on there?
Yeah, there was one I wanted to add. A discussion, or like opening the discussion of possibly lowering the amount that is distributed in each epoch, maybe at a certain ACPV, or at a number of members, or at a time. Whether that's like 5 million per epoch to 4 million or to 1 million or something, that would really incentivize the people who are joining early, and then would lower the amount of new supply. But instead of doing it abruptly, doing it at some point in the future, which could incentivize people joining earlier, and then would also reduce the amount of just open supply that's actively floating around.
Yeah, I would support some halvenings to lower our inflation rate with respect to the token. And I do like the gradual step down, because it creates more constant incentive to join, rather than like a one time.
Without making things more complicated.
Yeah, right. Like once you have the schedule, we can have the schedule.
We could just adjust the growth rate we need to hit as well, keeping all things constant, which would just delay the epochs.
So the difficulty of each epoch gets incrementally more difficult anyhow. So we are delaying in some way, unless we continue the percentage growth month over month, which hopefully we do. It's going to get more and more difficult. So there's a correlation between value added to the community and the inflation. So for example, if we get to 2 million ACPV, or PCPV, I should say, in order to get to the next epoch, I mean, we have to grow 10%. That's $200,000 in PCPV. That's not a small feat. But then if we do it, we've added a lot of value, right? So there's probably some massaging and sort of modeling we need to do, and sort of really taking a look at it. I think seeing the real world implications might be really helpful. I mean, we have the token distribution model. We could probably update it with some levers and pulleys to see how things look as we change the different inputs and outputs. That might be a good place to start.
Yeah, I think my biggest concern is the rate of inflation that we're hitting right now is still pretty high, because we're achieving new epochs every month, and I expect that will grow at least 10% every month for the next couple of years, which does add quite a bit of supply to the token.
Sure. Yeah, I think questions outstanding would be, what constitutes an early adopter? At what level should we start, creating diminishing returns? What are the implications for incentivizing new members to join? Josh just put a note here in the chat saying the first 1,000, fine, but we should probably model it out and see, what the actual real world implications are. As far as like limiting supply, it's a double-edged sword. It's fine, we can do it, but then we have less new tokens to incentivize, then we have to start dipping into treasury. And there's just a balancing act there that we have to, consider. So, Eddie, how hard would it be to update the models that we have with some, inputs that could be dynamic, that we could sort of see the implications of changing the inflation model on, new tokens pre-epoch, et cetera, et cetera. It shouldn't be that difficult.
No, it's certainly easy. I don't know if we have the time to do it today. Maybe.
No.
Yeah.
No, this is something we'd have to start doing and then look at it at a future call with the community.
Yep, I think that'd be good, because it's not just number of tokens, but it's also the value associated with each token, right? And so fewer tokens with more value can equal out to more tokens with less value too. So that's where modeling would be good.
No, for sure. And
that reversal to like keeping, if market cap stays constant, that reversal naturally rewards people who joined earlier.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, but then it doesn't reward new people. That's the point. Is the early birds are going to get rewarded. I mean, they've been rewarded. I'm not worried about them. What would be concerned about is if we change the inflation model, for the new people coming in, it's going to look really heavily weighted towards those first 1,000 people as an example. It's like, well, that's like the insider baseball. They got in early. Now there's no real incentive for me to come because I don't really get a piece of the pie. I was too late to the party. It's kind of smacks of like, early
like
ICO investors
who bought Bitcoin early.
Right. Or early ICO investors that get in, the price pumps, and then, they get a dump on the market. They all get rich, but then the rest of everybody else is kind of sitting around going, okay, well, that was fun, So we just want to make sure that whatever we do. So here's the balance I think we need to think about. And I'll try to make this as short as I can, just as I think about it. But we need to make sure that there's still ample incentive for people to join until we get to, I wouldn't say 1,000 members is critical mass. 1,000 members is just getting to a point where we're starting to scratch the surface of sustainability internally, but it's not critical mass. Yeah. So we've got to think about, how do we get to a place of critical mass while still providing ample incentive for people to join, to share in the potential upside.
The one piece that I really want to add there is that in most of the member conversations that I've had, the token's not a factor in why they join.
It's not yet, but in order to get to critical mass, it has to be. So
okay,
it's not yet because we're still too early in the adoption cycle. The people that we're getting right now, if you look at an adoption curve, the early adopters, who would that be? Okay, these are DAO members. These are highly ethos aligned people. These are people drinking the proverbial Kool-Aid of the future of Web3. If you look at our demographic, we don't have a ton of people yet that are just from normie land for various reasons. We haven't put a lot of marketing effort there yet either. But the point is like critical mass is probably closer to 10,000 members. So to get to 10,000 members, are there even 10,000 people in Web3 working full-time in DAOs that we could go get? I know there's 500,000 DAO contributors globally, but are there really 10,000 full-time W-2 people in the US? I don't know. I mean,
there are about 20,000 developers that contribute to Web3 projects. I looked that up yesterday.
But are they full-time working in DAOs needing our product, right? Because some of these folks are contributing part-time, they're doing side hustles. Like, this is one of the things about even independent contractor data that they don't tell you. Yes, there's 35 million independent contractors in the US, right? They look at 1099 data. But what they don't tell you is not all of those people are working full-time in independent work. A lot of that side hustles.
Is there a way to sift
So-
that data to say how many of those 1099s are worth more than $35,000? Do they release that?
Not that I'm aware.
There's not great data. You can kind of drill down eventually, especially if you do it by cohort. So if you look at independent freelance software developers in the US, there is data around how many do it full time, the average salary. And so that's a number closer to like 200K freelance software developers that make over $60,000 a year doing it in the US.
Right. So to collapse the loop on the token discussion, it's combining this sort of incentive for joining with the value accrual and making sure that we don't have an inflation model that gets ahead of the value. The inflation model should underpace the value accrual. In other words, we should be putting less tokens into the market in inflation than we accrue in our growth. For example, if we put 5% tokens into the community, that's about 1%, right, ish in token supply. Well, if we're growing by 10 or 20%, we're easily outpacing the value accrual versus the token inflation. So you can make an argument a bunch of different ways. You know, how does it impact price would be another concern. You obviously don't want to dilute the value to the community over time, but you can't make all your decisions based on that. You've got to juggle a bunch of different things, incentives combined with value. So anyway, just food for thought. I'm not advocating for anything in particular. We just made the previous change back in January, so it's not that long ago. And we are growing at a healthy clip, i.e. 21% as of the second payroll cycle of March. And we hit one epoch, which is 1% inflation in the token. So is that ratio appropriate or inappropriate? I mean, I know 5 million seems like a lot, but is it, in relationship to what we're accruing in value? So just things to think about. And I'll stop talking because we're at time. Anything else that we want to cover today? I guess, Joshua, if we want to, maybe Eddie can get together we can get some levers and pulleys built into the model so we can demonstrate some of the inflation model options that we might have, and we can have a discussion perhaps next week or the week following.
Yeah, that sounds like fun.
All right. Anything else from anybody? If not, we will wrap the time, and thank you everybody for your time. Okay. Well,
Thanks,
thank you,
everyone.
everybody.
See you, everyone.
Have a
Bye.
wonderful week.